On February 26, 2026, Pakistan's defense minister made a stunning announcement, declaring open war against the Taliban government in Afghanistan. The declaration, delivered in a tense press conference, marked a turning point in the region's already volatile dynamics. This move ended years of simmering tensions and uncertainty along the border, where both sides had long accused each other of harboring militants and fueling instability. The dramatic escalation came after a wave of deadly attacks rocked Pakistani cities, leaving dozens dead and hundreds injured. Islamabad squarely blamed these attacks on militants it says are sheltered and supported by the Afghan Taliban, deepening mistrust. According to Pakistani officials, they repeatedly provided evidence to Kabul, urging action against these groups. But, they claim, their warnings and pleas were ignored, leaving Pakistan feeling it had no choice but to act militarily. Once close allies, the relationship between Islamabad and Kabul has deteriorated sharply since the Taliban's return to power in 2021. The two neighbors now trade mutual accusations, and Pakistan's mass expulsions of Afghan nationals have further poisoned ties, creating a humanitarian crisis at the border. A brief ceasefire in late 2025 offered a glimmer of hope, but it quickly unraveled amid renewed violence and distrust, paving the way for this unprecedented escalation. Now, a nuclear-armed state faces off against a battle-hardened guerrilla regime. The world watches anxiously as the risk of a wider regional war grows, with both sides mobilizing troops and heavy weaponry along the mountainous frontier. The stakes are enormous, not just for Pakistan and Afghanistan, but for the stability and security of all South and Central Asia. The outcome of this conflict could reshape the region for years to come. Within hours of the war declaration, Pakistan launched Operation Righteous Fury, a sweeping air campaign deep into Afghan territory. Pakistani jets struck over 20 targets, including Kabul and Kandahar, aiming to cripple Taliban command centers and TTP hideouts. This marks a dramatic escalation. Never before has Pakistan targeted Afghan cities so directly. The Taliban, lacking an air force, faced overwhelming firepower as explosions rocked major cities. Pakistan's military showcased its might, but also risked uniting Afghan factions against it. The opening salvos sent shockwaves through Afghanistan, signaling a new and dangerous phase of conflict. The Taliban responded swiftly, launching ground assaults and artillery barrages against Pakistani border posts. Using guerrilla tactics and intimate knowledge of the terrain, Taliban fighters targeted over 50 Pakistani positions. Heavy fighting erupted along the border, with both sides claiming victories and denying losses. The Taliban framed their response as defense against foreign aggression, rallying support with nationalist rhetoric. The conflict quickly escalated from airstrikes to a grinding ground war, with no easy path to victory for either side. Both armies now face a protracted, bloody struggle across a volatile frontier. Both governments released wildly different casualty figures, each claiming major successes and downplaying their own losses. The official statements from Islamabad and Kabul painted two completely different pictures of the conflict, fueling confusion and mistrust among the public. As each side sought to control the narrative, the truth became increasingly difficult to discern. Pakistan reported hundreds of Taliban fighters killed, showcasing images of destroyed enemy equipment. Meanwhile, the Taliban dismissed these numbers as exaggerated, insisting they had inflicted heavy losses on Pakistani forces and destroyed several border posts. Both sides accused each other of spreading misinformation. Independent verification is nearly impossible amid the chaos, as journalists face immense danger and access is tightly restricted. Propaganda and conflicting reports shape the narrative, leaving the international community uncertain about the true scale of the violence. Meanwhile, civilians bear the brunt. Reports from Afghan sources cite dozens killed and injured, many of them women and children. Hospitals are overwhelmed, and families are torn apart by sudden tragedy. Families flee bombardment and ground fighting, creating a new wave of displacement in a region already facing poverty and instability. Entire communities are forced to abandon their homes, seeking safety wherever they can. The humanitarian crisis deepens, with essential services collapsing and anger mounting on both sides. Aid organizations struggle to reach those in need, as destroyed infrastructure and closed clinics leave thousands without help. Civilian suffering is now at the heart of this escalating war, with no end in sight for those caught in the crossfire. The international community is alarmed, urging both sides to de-escalate before the conflict spirals further. The UK and UN called for restraint and protection of civilians, while the US acknowledged Pakistan's security concerns but urged dialogue. China and Russia, with deep regional interests, pressed for stability and mediation. Despite mounting pressure, both Pakistan and the Taliban remain entrenched, driven by domestic politics and security fears. Diplomatic efforts are underway, but the momentum of war is hard to reverse. The world watches anxiously, hoping for a breakthrough before the region plunges deeper into chaos. At the heart of this war is Pakistan's accusation that the Afghan Taliban shelters the TTP, a group responsible for deadly attacks inside Pakistan. This accusation has not only strained relations between the two neighbors, but also left ordinary people living in fear and uncertainty along the border. Families are uprooted, trade is disrupted, and daily life is overshadowed by the threat of violence. The Taliban denies these claims, but evidence, including UN reports, suggests otherwise, fueling deep mistrust. International observers warn that this lack of trust makes cooperation nearly impossible, and the cycle of accusations and denials only deepens the crisis. This is not just a border dispute, it's a clash with global implications. The world is watching closely, as the outcome could reshape alliances and security strategies far beyond South Asia. Pakistan's nuclear arsenal and Afghanistan's strategic location mean a wider war could trigger a humanitarian disaster and destabilize the region. Millions could be displaced, and the risk of escalation would threaten not just neighboring countries, but the entire world. Extremist groups could exploit the chaos, threatening security far beyond South Asia. Terror networks thrive in instability, and their reach could extend to new regions, putting countless more lives at risk. Only urgent diplomacy and verifiable action on militant sanctuaries can halt the slide toward catastrophe. The international community must push for real solutions, not just promises, to prevent further tragedy. The world must act now, before this conflict claims even more innocent lives. Every moment counts, and the choices made today will shape the future for millions across the globe.